All righty, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and today I have a lot of slides to get through. So I'm going to try to get through everything within our time given, right? But today it's Financial Aid 101, everything that you need to know. Well, as much as I can fit into our time. Okay. It is April 16th. It's right at 5 o'clock today. I'm going to be going ahead and getting started, right? If you guys can help me out by putting your child's grade in the chat, it'll help me out to kind of understand exactly who's here and what kind of information makes sense for the most people. Okay. So with that, we're going to get started. Okay. Now, just as kind of like housekeeping things here, we're going to be talking about financial aid in a nutshell. I'm going to try to show you guys as many specific pieces as possible. But today we're going to be talking about FAFSA, CSS, IDOC, and additional forms. Okay. Now, if you want this later for your kind of like safekeeping, right? We'll go ahead and provide that replay to you guys. If you're in our Facebook group, I'll make a post about it. Okay. If you're in our coaching program already, in our egelloC program, right, then it will be posted on our YouTube channel in 24 to 48 hours. Okay. So just a little bit about me. I am one of the head coaches in our college admissions coaching program, right? I'm also the lead in the financial aid secrets program, okay? And I've been doing this for the last 16 years, okay? Now, I always start off with a little bit of news about what's going on in the financial aid world, okay? Now, there's not a lot of new news. I've been going over a lot of news that has been coming up, a lot of rumors and kind of different thoughts about what's going on, right? But as of right now, during this past week, there wasn't much besides that the federal student loan website was down like for an extended period of time, okay? They just laid off 24 tech employees that should have been able to handle the problem a lot faster, but obviously those people weren't there. They were short-staffed. They were not able to fix the problem quickly, right? Now, what does this mean for the upcoming kind of financial aid cycle? Well, unfortunately, it means that there's going to be more technical difficulties, right? And they're not going to get fixed in a quick manner, okay? So just things to kind of keep in mind as you're navigating the financial aid kind of process if you are a kind of a rising senior, okay? So as far as kind of new news, again, stay tuned with us. We'll try to get you as much new news as possible, okay? I'm going to skip through these real quick, right? But obviously, everyone is here because you want to save money on college, right? So there's a couple things I want you to get out of your head, right? Oh, we're not going to qualify. Oh, we can't get any money. Well, the question is, well, if you feel that way, why are you even here, right? Now, for a lot of our families, I actually had like 4 consultations today. 3 of my families were like, yeah, we're not really going to get anything, but we signed up for this consultation. I was like, what made you think that, right? I always tell families, if you guys, if everyone in your family is ripping around in a Ferrari, yeah, I probably can't help you, right? But for normal families, right, that are just trying to kind of get through, pay for college, right, there are options for your family, okay? So before we get into our training, which is super, super long, right, I do want to kind of make sure that I get this out there, okay? Quick word from our sponsor, egelloC, right? egelloC is our parent company, right? Some of you guys probably know Coach Tony or Coach Victor or Coach Art that are on during different trainings throughout the week, okay? We all work together to try to bring you guys the most up-to-date information possible, right? Now, paying for college is definitely one thing, right? But getting in is the other part, right? So we do have our college app intensive, right? I even see some people here that I saw at our last college app intensive kind of kickstart day, okay? And so for those that do not know about our college app intensive, it is a 2-weekend event, right? You do your kickstart sometime in April, May, or June, right? You do your accelerator in July, August, and September. It is a process to try to get through and get your ideas out on paper and finalize your PIQs for the UCs and also your personal statement, okay? Even students that are not thinking about applying to the UCs or private schools, again, there's other things that you can be working on during those events, right? I do suggest it for you, okay? If you guys do have questions about it, I will have a link later on at the end, but I also do want to make sure that you guys can go to the website. So it's just collegeappintensive.com, okay? So with that, I want to get into understanding the financial aid process, okay? So financial aid, what is it, right? Financial aid is money given to students and families in order to make college more affordable, right? There's a lot of different names that are given to financial aid, right? Grants, scholarship, work study, institutional aid, departmental aid, and loans, okay? So don't really worry about the kind of like what it's called, right? Just focus on these 2 kind of pots of money. There is free money out there that never needs to be repaid, and there are loans. That is the only 2 types of money that are out there. don't worry what it is called. Okay. Now, so it's just a reiteration, right? If it's free money, don't ask too many questions about it, right? They're giving you a discount, right? But if it's loans, then we have to check in to see which type of loans make sense for our family. Okay. Now, the first step of this process is the FAFSA. Okay. Now, the FAFSA is the site that has been having problems for the last 2.5 years. Okay. The open date for the class of 2025 was December 1st. That's when it opened, right? Normally, it's supposed to open in October. So what I'm hoping is that for the class of 2026, it will open on October, right? But with everything going on right now in the government and kind of being short-staffed and this and that, if a problem arises, I know that it will not be open on October 1st. So I'm not hopeful for that, but I'll keep you guys in the loop as to what is going on for this next coming year, okay? The website that you need to be on is studentaid.gov. There's a lot of other kind of like gimmick websites out there that try to get your information and send you scholarship links. Those aren't the ones you want to be on. You need to make sure that you're on studentaid.gov. If it's .com, .org, .anything else, right? You know that it is not the website you need to be on. Okay. Now, here are the things that you need to that you need in order while you're filling it out. You need your appropriate year tax return. Okay. A lot of people, I say this every week, but they still don't understand it. So I'm going to say it one more time. You need to make sure that you are using that you have the information from the tax return that is the appropriate tax return for your year. Okay. If you are a class of 2026, it is the tax return from 2 years ago, right? So the 2024 tax return. If you're a 2027 student, it's the 2025 tax return. Okay. You need your social security number. And I've said this in the last 2 weeks, but you need the right social security number, right? Even if you think you know it by heart, please check it one more time because I've seen too many people not remember their social security the right way. Okay. You need an email address that you regularly check, right? One for the student, one for the parent, right? And you also need a phone number that can receive text messages, right? You can, again, you need a distinct one for the student, a distinct one for the parent, right? I have seen that you can use internet phone numbers like Google Voice, right? But it's better if it is an actual cell phone number, right? Or a landline that can receive text messages. Okay. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about the form and kind of give you guys some information, right? So I took screenshots. I went into my own account and did this, right? So this is what the student side looks like, right? They ask who's filling it out, right? They ask what state you're a legal resident of. Now, this question is a little bit complicated for some families, right? Some families might be here on certain visas. Some people might be green card holders. Some people might be this. Some people might be that, right? So when you're filling this out, it becomes very important because this is the information that is transmitted to the different colleges that you are applying to. If you are applying to a UC, but you say that you're not a legal resident of California, then you're not going to get in-state tuition. So it's something that is very important for a variety of reasons. Okay. They're also going to make you connect kind of like your information with the IRS, right? Again, this is one of those pieces that they put in, right? To kind of, make sure that people are putting in the right information. But I've actually found that it doesn't do that. Okay. They're also going to ask you what year you're in, right? Obviously, if you're going to be a rising senior, first year freshman, right? If you're a continuing student, second year, right? Third year, fourth year, beyond, right? So on and so forth, right? The reason why they ask if it's their first bachelor's degree is that the FAFSA form is only eligible for those students that are on their first bachelor's degree, right? So again, that's why they ask that question. They also ask about personal circumstances, right? If they were kind of a ward of the state in foster care, right? A student, if you're a veteran, right? So on and so forth, they'll ask these questions as well. They will also ask if the student was kind of self-supporting or at risk of being homeless, right? Or homeless, right? And so these are some questions that they ask as well, right? This part has changed, right? I have shown this in previous weeks, but the student demographic and the kind of gender category, with the new mandates that the federal government has put out there, there are only two options here. It's male and female. Those are the only options. If your student is not comfortable answering that question, we need to kind of talk about that because, well, they only have two options, and this is a required question in order to move on. Okay. They are also asked about race and ethnicity. This isn't to kind of check on anyone or do these sorts of things or kind of like kind of discriminate. It's just for survey purposes to see who's filling out the form. Same thing with the applications you turn in to various colleges. They might ask these questions, but it's not for those purposes. It's for survey purposes, kind of like a census. Okay. They also ask about students' citizenship status, right? So either U.S. citizen or national, eligible non-citizen, or neither U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. So those are kind of like our DACA recipients, right? Eligible non-citizens would include green card holders, right? If you are a green card holder, they will ask for your A number. If you're a U.S. citizen, they will ask for your social security number, so on and so forth, okay? They will also ask what the completion status of your high school will be, right? So if it's a high school diploma, they'll also ask you where you went to school, right? They will also ask if the student will be filing taxes. Now, me as the student, yes, I file taxes, but my 17-year-old self did not file taxes. So the answer is no here. Okay. The number in college. This is very important, right? Now, I've actually seen that, kind of like the number in college and number of people in your family. These are things that kind of like don't get processed correctly. Okay. So make sure that when you get to this prompt, if you do have siblings in college, you add those other siblings in. Okay. They also have a section where you have to go ahead and tell them what schools you're applying to. Okay. Now, why this is important to the kind of process is this, right? There's only 20 slots available. Now, there might be some people out there that say 20 slots, that's a lot, right? But if you're applying to all the UCs, that's already 9 slots filled up, right? And then you only have 11 slots left, right? There are plenty of students that are applying to more than 20 individual campuses in our program and across the globe, really, right? Because college is so hard to get into nowadays, right? So they're spreading a little bit wide. The one thing I wanted to remind you about this is that you only can do 20 at one time. So you do 20, and then you have to wait until it's processed, and then come back and make a correction, take out some, and add the other schools in. So if you have 25, you do 20 first, you let it process through, then you come back for a correction, add the other 5 schools in. Okay, you'll have to delete some off in order to make space. Okay. Now, again, this is just a brief look at the form, right? This is on the student side, right? One day I will do the parent side as well, right? Many of the questions are very similar, but there are a lot more questions about the financial situation, right? When you get to the parent side of the form. Okay. Next step, okay? The next step is the CSS profile, right? Why do we need this form, right? The CSS profile, right, is a form that a lot of schools require, especially private schools, right, to see what they can do and what they can provide a family from their own institution, right? So if you're applying to USC, USC asks for it. If you're applying to Boston University asks for it to see what they can do to bridge the gap because their cost of attendance is very high, right? It's going to connect colleges and the institutional aid, and then that is why we need this form, okay? Now, it is not something that is optional. If the school asks for the CSS profile, they need to get the CSS profile, okay? So the FAFSA is the kind of gateway form. CSS is the next step of that process, okay? So talking about the CSS profile, again, I want to show you the form a little bit, right? Again, this is just the terms of service kind of, contract you have to click through. Even if you don't agree with something, you have to click through. Okay, so just go ahead and read through there, right? Make sure, and then they ask about your name, a preferred name, right? You want to make sure that you're using your legal first name, right? So if your first name is Theodore and everyone calls you Teddy, your first name is not Teddy, okay? Even though everyone calls you that. You can put that in your preferred name, but your first name needs to be your legal name. You guys will not, you guys can't imagine how many times I've gone through the form and it's like, oh yeah, we already started on it a little bit. And I'm like, okay, well, we're doing it now, so we'll take care of it. We look in and then, the student's name is Jennifer and they put in Jenny, right? And it's like, that's not your legal first name, okay? So again, make sure that you are providing, your legal first name, and that you put in your birthdays and social security numbers correctly, okay? There is also kind of information about kind of parent information. Okay. So one of the things that is happening right now, and there's a lawsuit and it's still ongoing, right, is if you're in a kind of family situation where the parents are separated or divorced or, no longer in contact, whatever the situation is, right, this is something that can greatly change what happens with your financial aid, right? So if you do have questions about this and your family, again, we will have a link to talk to us about financial aid later on during the presentation. Okay. They also ask about college choices here, right? Unlike the FAFSA here, you can add as many as you want, right? And the reason why you can add as many as you want is because, well, you have to pay for them, right? So each school or the first school that you send costs $25, right? Now, a lot of people might be saying, oh my God, $25, my kid's applying to 25 schools. That's 25 times 25. What is that? Well, it's a lot of money, right? So it's actually $25 for the first school, and then it's $16 for each additional school. Okay. So there are like if you're applying to 10 schools, it's 25 for the first one, and then 9 times 16, which is, let me see if I can do my math, 144. So it's going to be $169 to send it to 10 schools. Okay. So again, there are schools that accept the CSS profile. There are schools that also do not accept the CSS profile. So you, again, if you go in here and you're typing in the name and you can't find that school, just remember, it's probably because they're not using it. Okay. Now, there are certain schools where if you type in their name, it doesn't pop up. Okay. I'm going to give you a very simple example. NYU. Okay. Now, NYU is the name that everyone knows NYU by, right? But the actual name of the university is New York University. If you do not type in New York University, the only NYU option will be for their medical school, right? Now, why does that matter? Well, because if you send your CSS profile to the medical school, the undergraduate college that you are going to will never receive your CSS profile. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Okay, now here, right? They ask, you know, about, for every school that you select, they go ahead and ask you some questions, right? So for the CSS profile, and again, I don't care what the actual situation is. If you are a rising senior, your first year undergraduate, never previously attended college. They're not asking if you've ever taken college classes. They're asking if you were ever enrolled full-time at a college, right? Most students, right? The answer is no if you are a rising senior, okay? If that is the case, that's what you choose, right? What are your housing plans? Now, I chose Stanford because it was just like one of the schools that was already there for me, right? But let's say that you live in Palo Alto and you're going to live at home. Well, I don't care, right? You're going to click on campus, right? This is very important. The reason why you need to click on campus is because on-campus housing and living and eating is the most expensive type of housing that you can have. Okay. And therefore, the cost of attendance for any college will be higher when that is the case. Okay. So we want the cost of attendance to be high so that we can get more money from the school. Okay. So you don't want to say that you're going to be spending less. You want to say that you're going to be spending more and that you need more money. Okay. And then the regular decision, early action, or early decision, right? Whatever you did apply as, okay, or are going to apply as, okay. Now here, right, for housing, right, they ask about kind of housing details, right? They say, okay, and many people own their home, right? So, but for planning for college, right, we want to make sure that you own less of it, right? So in addition to kind of like owning less of it, which means like, yeah, it's actually better if you have a mortgage, right? We don't want you to use the market value of your home, right? Especially in California, people think that you are, well, I mean, technically speaking, right? If you own a home in California, it's very likely that it is a very high-priced home, right? It doesn't matter where you own it, it's going to be higher than other parts of the country. But if you use Zillow or Redfin to tell us the current market value, right? The current market value is always is extremely exaggerated when it comes to California homes, right? So when you're talking about the current market value, I tell parents you should use the value that you pay property tax on, because that is the number that the government has stated that your house is actually worth. That's what you're paying taxes on. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Okay, now I am going to give you one of the biggest pro tips that I can when it comes to the CSS profile. In the parent financial information section, right, there's only 5 questions that are required. The only 5 questions that are required, though, that's all that you should be answering, right? You do not need to answer or volunteer any other type of information, right? Telling them how much interest you made, where you work, right? How much retirement funds you have. That only hurts you. So just do what is required, the bare minimum, right? I know that we, you know, for all our families, I know that we have a lot of overachievers, right? But this is the one time you do not want to try and overachieve. You need to give them the base level of information, okay? So parents, remember that, okay? It is a chess game when it comes to financial aid. We're trying to give them the least amount of information, pull money from them, and not give them any more. That's what we are trying to do, okay? It also asks about student resources, like how much does the student expect to earn, right? In this year, in that year, right? Taxed income, untaxed income, all these different things, right? But across the board, right? Again, unless your student is making $50, $60, $70,000 a year working part-time, right? Everything should just be zero here, right? And also they ask about student resources when it comes to, well, how much is mom and dad going to help me out? How many other scholarships have we gotten, right? Do I have any employers that are going to help with tuition? And are other relatives going to be kind of helping pay for college? Now, the truth is that maybe grandma and grandpa got a little something tucked away for you, right? But in this situation, right, I want us to be mean parents, mean uncles, mean aunts, and mean grandparents, okay? So again, read between the lines here. We don't want to be nice in this situation. We don't want to tell them that we're going to be helping our student out, right? Because that just means that there's less need for the college to do anything for us, okay? So keep that in mind there, okay? So quick takeaways here, right? So quick takeaways, do not volunteer information, right? It's just going to mess you up, okay? Answer the basics. If they ask for more later, we can deal with it then, right? The CSS obviously has more pieces than what I just showed. I just tried to show some of the important areas, right? And before you turn anything in, before you touch anything, please talk with us because there are a lot more opportunities than families actually think there are, okay? The next step of the puzzle, again, some schools just ask for the FAFSA. Some schools ask for the FAFSA and the CSS, right? And then some schools ask for the FAFSA, the CSS, and the IDOC, right? But again, they could ask for number one, number two, or number three, right? But usually it's a progression. If they ask for number one, or if they ask for number two, they ask for number one. If they ask for number three, they ask for number two and one, okay? So on and so forth. But the IDOC is the Institutional Documentation Service, right? This is also run by College Board. It's where you turn in additional forms like your tax returns, W-2s, and 1099s. Okay. There's also a place for you to turn in kind of like non-custodial parent forms, which are for like, kind of divorced families, separated families, or, single parent families, right? Also different waivers and letters that you might need to turn in as well. Okay. Now, as far as who uses the IDOC, right, there's a very quick way to find out, and it's this list here, right? So if you actually just go on Google, type in CSS participating institutions, you should be able to see a full list of all the colleges in the United States that do and do not use certain things, okay? So if you actually go into this list, and again, I'm not sure how often it's updated. This is for 25, 26. I haven't seen necessarily a 26, 27 yet, but it's a little bit further away, right? You can filter by these different areas, right? Do they require that the CSS profile is turned in, right? Again, if you just turn in the FAFSA, that's the least information that you can give. If you have to turn in the FAFSA and the CSS, that's the next level. You're turning in a little more information. If you're turning in the FAFSA, the CSS, and the IDOC, you're turning in more information. And then if it's FAFSA, CSS, IDOC, and additional forms, then literally they're trying to, like dive into your life as much as they can to disqualify you, right? So the less they ask for, the more willing they probably are to provide you money, right? But again, you can kind of go ahead and use like this website to see what schools are going to be looking for. Okay, so you can filter by kind of if they ask for the CSS, if they ask for IDOC, so on and so forth. Okay, however, right, one thing I do want you to be wary about is that just because they don't ask for the CSF or waivers or IDOC does not mean that they don't have additional requirements that need to be kind of met. Okay, now where do you find those things? Well, unfortunately, they're hidden in a lot of different nooks and crannies. Okay, so there's different portals, like your applicant portal they can be on. It could just be sent to you in an email as well, or you might have to dig and find it on their website, right? But they purposely make it hard for families so that they miss a step and lose out on financial aid. Any step that they ask you to do, if you miss out on it, right, then they will not give you financial aid, right? So if they ask you to turn in the CSS, but you didn't turn it in, well, they're not going to give you your financial aid package until you do, right? If you don't turn in additional documents, well, they won't give you something that you need until you actually finish that part. Okay. So again, it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game here, right? But I wanted to also give you examples of colleges that have their own system of working on things, right? USC is one of those places. USC asks for the FAFSA. They also ask for the CSS profile. But when it comes to turning in documents, they use their own system called FAST. Okay. And so now you have another system that you have to deal with, right? In addition to the UC app, the Common app, the Coalition app, right? Now you have FAFSA, now you have CSS, and then you have FAST, right? So hooray, you have so many different portals to be kind of looking into, right? Now, luckily, most people have turned on their password thing, right, on their computers and on their tablets and things like that. So their passwords are automatically saved. So we're not really in an era where people have to remember every single password that they create, right? But right, you should have them written down somewhere just in case so that you can get into them. Okay. Baylor is another school, right? Baylor requires students to do the FAFSA, but then they don't require the CSS and they want you to upload documents through their own specific portal. Okay. So the first USC was FAFSA CSS and then additional documents. Baylor is FAFSA and then additional documents. Okay. There's other schools like Princeton, right? Princeton does FAFSA, CSS, and then upload to their personal website, right? So there's additional forms that need to be filled out on their own portals, okay? So, and in addition to that, they almost have a form that is almost likened to the FAFSA form that they make you refill out on their own portal, right? I'm like, why can't people get it together, right? I think my next kind of mission will be to create a system that colleges can use where people's information is all there, right? That way, we can use one system instead of using 4 different systems to try to get colleges the information that they're asking for. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Okay, so quick takeaways here. Okay, this is not an uncomplicated system. It's a complicated system with a lot of the kind of different hiding places for things to be, right? Obviously, if the colleges all used one central system, it'd be very nice. People think that is the FAFSA, but that's not the case. People think that's the CSS, but that's not the case, as I have just shown you, right? So I don't want you to fall into the confusion. That's why I'm trying to provide that information now, so you guys can know what to look out for as you're going through the financial aid process, right? The one thing I will say is that you need to make sure that you're staying vigilant so that you can get aid. Okay. Now, why are we different than other companies, right? Because, right? Oh, where did it go? It disappeared. But I'll tell you why we are different, right? And here it is right here, right? We're not saying that your student has to be a kind of like straight A, 15 AP, 1600 SAT type of student to get aid, right? We have other strategies that we have used to get higher income families financial aid, okay? We also don't make you buy life insurance or tax deferred annuities to lower your income in order for you to qualify, right? Because how many families out there can put $100,000 of their hard earned income into a tax deferred annuity that they can't touch until they're 65, right? We also don't mess with your college list. The colleges that you're applying to are the colleges you're applying to. And during our consultation, I will tell you exactly what I think I can save at certain schools, right? There will also be schools where I can't save families money, right? Some of those schools that where I can't save families money is out of state public schools. So if you're in California and you say, Coach David, I'm just going to apply to UT Austin, I'm going to tell you, good luck with that. I can't help you in our program because you're applying to an out of state public school. They have no obligation to you because you are not a Texas resident. Okay. So if you guys come to me, I will give you the straightforward answers that you are looking for. Right. So whether you're a higher income family, a lower income family, right? You guys are applying to private schools or UCs or CSUs or your home state schools, whatever the situation, come and talk to me so that we can find a solution for your family. Okay. Now, again, I just want to share a couple of recent results, right? These are the ones I have been sharing, but I do see some new people here. Want to make sure that they see these as well, right? So this is a student. They're going to UC Davis, right? In the fall, right? Their family AGI was around 230, right? They had around $800,000 in assets. They own their own home, but we were able to get them roughly about $40,000 a year. This family's paying $5,000 a year to go to UC Davis, right? So that is what, $1,700 in the fall, $1,700 in the winter, $1,700 in the spring. That is all they're paying. Okay. I also have a family at BU, right? We were able to uncover some, hidden veterans benefits that they didn't know that they can get, right? And we also got them financial aid, right? Their family makes around 437K, assets above 2 million, right? They own their own home. They also are one of the kind of parents is self-employed, right? And so we were able to get this student $42,000 a year, right? So that's another one of our great results, right? Where's our other result? Here's another result, right? Family made $347,000, 1.4 million in assets, right? Own their own home. They also have rental properties. I was able to get them $30,000 from Chapman, 35 from Fordham, and 37 from University of San Diego. This student is headed to Chapman, right? That's where they wanted to go. Okay. So these are, again, some of our results, right? But there's one more thing I want to tell you guys about today, right? And that one more thing is this, right? It is our summit, right? We are having a college admissions summit on May 10th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to have different, strategy sessions from former admissions readers and experts. We're going to have people, we're going to have sessions about how to stand out for the UCs and the private colleges. We're going to have sessions about the PIQs. We're also going to have a session about financial aid and scholarships. We're also going to have a session about kind of activities and kind of majors. Okay. So we're trying to have as many people there as possible because we want to share our information, right? For those of you guys that didn't know, egelloC has multiple different parts to it, right? We have our coaching program, we have financial aid, we also have a research area and an internship program as well, right? So those are all things that we might be talking about during that day. We hope that you guys join us. If you do want to join us, it's going to be live on Zoom, right? So again, you don't have to get out of your PJs in the morning on Saturday, right? You can stay in your PJs. All you have to do is register at egelloc.com/summit. Okay. The website's super simple, right? But this is our kind of college admission summit for 2025. We are hoping to have one every year, right? And depending on kind of like, how many people ask for it, we might do multiple a year, right? But we want to kind of get everyone together so that they can see the different parts of the application process and really truly understand exactly what the kind of process entails. Okay, so sign up today. Again, remember, it's just egelloC, right? For those of you guys that don't know, egelloC is just college spelled backwards. Okay, so egelloc.com/summit. Make sure that you register soon, right? We do have a limit on how many people we can have in our room. So once we hit that limit, we're going to have to stop taking registrations. Okay, so please make sure to register ASAP. Okay, now again, here are the ways to contact us. If you are interested in financial aid, please text money to 949-775-0865. We will make sure that we reach out about getting a consultation on the books. If you're interested in our college app intensive or in our longer term coaching programs, right? Go ahead and text college to 949-775-0865. Again, the website for the summit is egelloc, egelloc, right? College spelled backwards, .com/summit. Okay, so I'm going to leave that up there. I'm also going to put the link for the financial aid consultation into the chat here. Okay, so just give me a second to get that link. And then I will put that in the chat so you guys have it there, right? These QR codes also work. So there's QR code. You can text us or you can use the link in the chat. There's no reason for you not to talk to me, okay? Again, our consultations are free. They're never paid. If someone reaches out to you acting like they are me, right? Asking you to pay $59 for a consultation, that is not me. That's some spam, okay? So make sure that you sign up with the links that are given or the QR codes or text us so that we can get you the information that you need about our program and if it can help your family. Okay. I do want to make sure that I answer questions too, right? Because that's another part of what we think is important in our trainings to answer questions, right? So let's go ahead and talk about, or there's a couple questions here already, so we'll start with those. If anyone else does have questions, please put them in the Q&A in the chat, wherever you feel comfortable, so that we can answer them for you, okay? So the question here says, when you list a family's assets, what does that include? So the family assets that are usually included for the purposes of financial aid are going to be like retirement assets, right? If you have rental properties, right? Your investment account, right? Your retirement accounts, those sorts of things, right? So it doesn't include your family home, okay? So it doesn't include your home equity, okay? All right. If there are additional questions, please put them in the Q&A or in the chat. I will make sure to answer them for you. All right, that was a lot of slides I got through today. Hopefully it wasn't too fast. I was just trying to make sure I get through everything during our kind of like 30, 35-minute time frame that we usually have. I didn't want to keep you guys on for too long, okay? In the coming months, we're going to be talking about different things, like what are juniors supposed to be doing right now? What are things that need to be prepared, right? What are the drawbacks of looking at kind of outside scholarships, right? All these pieces are going to be kind of pieces that you need to understand to make sure that you're in the best position possible when it comes to your financial aid, right? But the quickest way to get the answers to your more specific questions is to reach out to us, okay? So if you have friends, family, anyone that has seniors that are going to college next year, they need to talk to me, right? If I can help, I'll tell them about our program. If I can't help, I'll give them some advice and send them on their way, okay? All right. I don't see any more questions today, right? Which is good, which means that hopefully I answered most of the questions as I was going through the presentation. Again, we are here to help. We want to talk to you. Don't feel bad, like, oh, I don't want to waste their time with our situation, right? We're not going to qualify anyway. If that's your family, right, or if you're thinking that right now, I probably need to talk to you first because you're probably the person that has the most denial going on right now, right? So there are a lot of different strategies that we can use to get your family eligible for different types of things. So make sure you sign up right away, okay? Especially if you have a junior right now, right? If you have a sophomore right now, you also need to be talking to me because the 2025 tax return is the one that's going to be important for your family. So if you guys are thinking about selling all your worldly possessions and moving to Fiji, well, we should probably talk about that to see how that is going to affect your financial aid package, right? Because if you sell everything and don't reinvest, well, there's a lot of capital gains that we're going to have to think about. Okay. So again, QR code, text, link in the chat. Please, please, please do not sleep on this. We do have a discount that is running until the end of the month, right? After the end of the month, it will be gone. So unfortunately, if you don't sign up soon, I cannot offer that guarantee to you. Coach Tony, right? The one with the Mohawk, right? The Mohawk one, right? He is the one that will turn off the discount. I cannot reactivate it. I am not website savvy. Okay. So make sure that you guys take advantage of the discount while it's here, right? During the month of April. Okay. All right, sounds good. So I don't see any other questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the screen up for a little while in the chat so that people can grab the link or the QR code, right? And if you guys do have any question, reach out on Discord, reach out on Facebook, right? Reach out via email, whatever is easiest for you, reach out to us so we can get you more information. Okay. So thank you guys for spending a little time with me here today, right? I hope to see all of you guys at the summit as well. So please register for that. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us in any format. Okay. It was great talking to you guys tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys here again next week, Wednesday at 5 p.m. for our next training. All right. Hope everyone has a great night. I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.